Hi, welcome back to my channel. I'm William with the William C. Roy Consulting Group. Today we're going to talk about technical versus adaptive goals. You know, the first step in any coaching relationship is building trust. One of the first paths towards building trust is working on your one big goal. Like all people, we have several goals, many goals that we're trying to work through, or some we may be working on more actively than others, but we have a multitude of goals. But in a coaching relationship, a good coaching relationship, we need to take time to identify the one big goal that you want to work on, that you need to work on, that's going to be the most impactful for your life or your work. So let's talk about setting that goal. One of the most significant errors that many leaders make is applying a technical solution to an adaptive goal, and it just doesn't work. We have to separate our technical goals from what we call our adaptive goals. And so maybe your next reasonable question is, what's the difference between a technical and an adaptive goal? Technical goals are usually, they're commonplace. And you always want to assume that the goals that you have or the challenges that you have are technical. And you want to try technical solutions first. And if they don't work, especially over time, that's the time you want to move forward and attempt to apply a adaptive solution to them. Because if you think it's a technical goal and you've tried the technical solutions and it's still not working, chances are you've got an adaptive goal on your hands. And also keep in mind some things, for example, weight loss, to many people is a technical goal. Through willpower, through changing diet, they're able to get their weight loss goal achieved. But for some people, myself included, it seems like the discipline and the intent to lower caloric intake, increase exercise, doesn't always work out. And so it turns out that for those people, weight loss isn't a technical challenge, it's an adaptive challenge. It takes a little bit of a deeper way of solving the problem. So technical goals are easy to identify. They usually have fairly quick, fairly straightforward or easy solutions. They require small changes on the part of the individual within known boundaries. So there's not a lot of unknowns. Specific strategies may be unknown to you, but they make sense, and you're able to carry those strategies out within your normal, regular boundaries in which you live your life. They can often be solved by an expert or an authority, a weight loss guru, a training expert, a leadership development expert, and they can generally be implemented fairly quickly. So an example, and we'll get into some more examples later, but if you have a leadership development program and the program is focused on building specific skills, whether they're skills in a financial area or skills in motivating employees, those can usually be handled fairly quickly through training, through classes. But when we come to adaptive goals, things change. Adaptive goals can be difficult to identify and easy to deny. So it's easy when it's an adaptive challenge in your life. It's hard to figure out what exactly the adaptive challenge is, but it's easy to say, no, that's not my problem. That's not it. Nope, I'm going to take this class. This will fix it. Adaptive goals require changes in your values, in your beliefs, in your approaches to work. That's because overcoming adaptive goals requires a fundamental and qualitative shift in the way you make meaning, in the way you process information. They require numerous changes across many and sometimes unknown boundaries. So there's changes you need to make. There's changes that you have to achieve and accomplish in order for the goal to be met. And it's not easy. It's not complicated, but it's often not easy because it does take that qualitative shift in the way we think and believe and approach our lives and our work and, and make meaning in the world. Adaptive challenges have to be solved by the people with the problem, which means nobody else can solve it for you. The expert can't come in and implement this, this, and this, and then your goal is met, your problem solved, your challenge is achieved. You have to put in the work. You have to really do some deep searching and some deep thinking about the way you handle things. And if so, for organizations, we call them deliberately developmental organizations that apply this technique, often when a project or an initiative fails, it's not about whose fault is it, but for every person that was involved in the process along the way, each one is required to take accountability to what they contributed to the failure. That takes some real brutal honesty. There's no quick fixes with adaptive problems. They require constant experimentation and testing of our preconceived notions and ideas. But I will say that overcoming the adaptive challenges provide the most significant changes at not just to the one challenge you're trying to achieve, but they cause significant improvement when you achieve these adaptive goals to many, many areas of your life and other things where you may have a goal over here on the side that's important, but it's not the one big thing. But because you went through this adaptive process, that goal is now easy to meet because you've made this huge change. So some examples of technical goals. Let's say an employee needs the training to develop a skill in an area further. So let's say you have an accountant who doesn't really understand equity. You can get that in accountant training. You can send them to a class, seminar, an online training, and you can help them develop that. Fixing defective equipment is an example of a technical challenge. Implementing new software or rolling out new software. So we've all been in organizations probably that implemented new software that we all had to learn. Well, that's a fairly straightforward technical implementation, straightforward training to get people comfortable with the software, and developing a new class. It's a fairly technical exercise, which I've done quite a bit, done it all the time. And you get the experts. If you're not the expert, you get the expert together, you get the information, you lay it out in a logical manner, you do your storyboarding, and then you write the class, throw in the graphics, the videos. It's a fairly straightforward process. So some examples of adaptive goals would be becoming more present in the moment. Let's say you're easily distracted. Well, that's probably an adaptive goal. There's things you need to work on to become more present in the moment. And personality has a lot to do with that too, but these are skills that can be learned through the adaptive method. Learning how to give others more autonomy, or in other words, you're a control freak. You have to control everything. You think if you don't do it, or if you don't have your hands in it, it's not going to get done. Well, that tends to limit people who are trying to help you out to meet these goals, your team. It tends to limit them significantly, and they feel it and they don't give their best. So it behooves you to learn how to give people more autonomy, to be less of a need, to have less of a need to have your hands in everything. But if you're of the type that that's how you feel about things, that's how you think about things, that you have to control it, you have to change it, you have to make every decision, then that's an adaptive challenge. And there are steps that we can take to get you through that so that you're able to give your teams more autonomy and more freedom and help them become more productive and happier in what they're doing. Another example would be designing a new process for retaining employees in a high turnover environment. You know, there's some technical things that you can put into place, a reward system. You can put in prizes, you can put in leadership programs, but there's also an adaptive side to controlling employee turnover, to increasing employee engagement. And that really comes through working with the leaders first so that they then take that and let it flow down to their employees. If you work with the employees directly without attending to the leadership issues, because usually turnover is a leadership issue, then it may work while you're there. But once you depart from that organization or that department, chances are everybody's going to go back to where they were comfortable, the leadership especially, and that's going to result in the turnover going right back up. Seen it many times. Another example is developing a solution to a problem where nothing that has been tried has worked. So you have an ongoing problem, maybe it's been in your organization for months or years. You've tried many different ways to solve that. Chances are, if those ways haven't worked, that what you have is an adaptive problem that takes a whole different approach, requires a whole different approach. Now you might ask, how do I set my one big goal? And this is a fairly straightforward process, but not easy. You need to sit down and start making a list of all your goals. Once you've got a list of, say, let's say 10 to 12 goals, it's a good sized list. These goals can be work related or they can be personal. With adaptive goals, there's usually a good overlap between personal and professional goals. But once you have the list, you need to separate out the technical goals from the adaptive goals. And that is probably the most challenging part of setting your one big goal. And chances are you're going to need someone to help you walk through this process and help you to see which goals are technical versus which ones are adaptive. That also comes from a good coach who's gotten to know you well enough, and a good coach can get to know you pretty well in 1 to 2 sessions. And then they help you work through these goals, which ones are technical, which ones are adaptive. And that helps you to refine it so that you can figure out what your one big adaptive goal is. Again, adaptive goals are more important than technical goals. Maybe more important is not the right word, but they will have a bigger impact overall on your life and your work, including to those technical goals. So that's how we go about choosing the goal, short version. The actual process is more involved, of course, requires a lot of conversation back and forth. If you'd like help working towards your most challenging goals, if you need help identifying what your one big goal is, again, this is just the first step, please reach out to me. Send me an email, reach out to me through my website. I'd be happy to hop on the phone and talk to you and see if this system is for you and see if there's any way that I can help you and we can work together. So until next time, have a great day.